You guys know I love podcasting and listening to podcasts, and I'm guessing if you're listening to this that you love podcasts too. Have you ever considered podcasting yourself? It is a great way to reach your audience, grow your know, like and trust factor, and not need to show your face unless you want to. If it is something you've thought about but you don't know where to start, then head over to becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz, BAP quiz, to access a 2-minute quiz that will help you work out what type of podcast might suit you. That's becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz. I am super excited because today on the show we have Kelly Mortimer. She is a leading sales trainer for wedding businesses in the UK, having worked in weddings and events for 22 years with celebrities and royalty. She shows wedding pros how to grow revenue, and I am super excited to have her on the show with us today. So let's not wait, let's jump straight in. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. I am so super glad to have you here today, and I am even more super excited to have Kelly with us today. Welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure to be invited.
I have been watching you for a very long time. That sounds a bit stalkerish, doesn't it? And been meaning to reach out for so long. And I'm so glad I caught you on the LinkedIn Live that I saw you on and was like, no, do it now while you're thinking about it. So I'm really happy.
I love LinkedIn. Controversial, but I love the platform.
It is a little bit controversial, isn't it? So before we jump in, I am sure many of my listeners already know who you are. But if you could give us a little introduction into who you are, where you've come from, how did you get started in the industry, and what is it that you love best?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I help wedding businesses across the world to drive their sales and revenue. So we tend to find, obviously in the wedding industry, many of us are super creatives, and that often means that they shy away from that sales and marketing plan. So we really help people to create a solid plan to actually attract and convert couples so they can do more of what they love. So that's what I do now. The short version is I fell into weddings. I was not obsessed with weddings. I was actually running away from getting married when I was 21. And I didn't want to settle down. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have kids. I wanted to travel the world and have experiences of life. And so I left a small village in Cambridge where I grew up, and I took a job in the Caribbean. And I thought I was just going to be working in resort. And when I got there, they said that part of my job was to do 3 weddings a week. So it was an absolute shock. Nobody taught me how to do it. I got thrown in at the deep end. And of course, kind of the rest is history, that it turned out to be my secret ninja skill. And I then spent, 18 years, again, across the world planning events and weddings for, yes, it started off small, but eventually up to £1 million budgets, events for the late Queen Elizabeth II, celebrities. And yeah, so it was an incredible accidental life story.
Fantastic. And we can see that you love travel from your background there. Like, I love that map. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, travel is definitely the thing that lights me up. It's my passion. It's my drive. I've lived all over the world. I speak Spanish. I love Latin America. Yeah, it's definitely a big part of who I am.
Have you tried salsa?
I am a pretty decent salsa dancer.
Yay! I'm a salsa dancer too.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Mark Anthony, adore him. Mm-hmm. Saw him in concert when he was in London. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. See, more in common than I even thought we would have.
We digress.
We do, because we are here today to talk to one of my other big passions in my life, which is learning. I went back to uni when I was 27, I think, and did history because I love the monarchy. I love the kings and queens, and that's what I wanted to really sort of hone in on. I'm very lucky that one of the modules was called Kings and Queens. So I absolutely love history, love learning, and I will be a lifelong learner. And I believe you're the same.
I am absolutely the same. And interestingly enough, I wasn't a big learner at school. I did okay. I was very, very average at school. The classroom environment didn't really suit me. And I actually left school, after high school, just was like, I want to get into the real world. I want to work. And I was very much a learn by doing person. And it's only sort of in my adult life that I've become obsessed with knowledge, obsessed with learning, but in a way that suits me. And I think a lot of us resonate with that. We didn't love sitting in a classroom. We found it boring, but actually learning and knowledge and expanding our brains is like, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Right. So with that in mind, with this, the importance of learning, we both love learning. I thought we could talk today a little bit about why it is so important to continue our education within our businesses, both, back end and on the trade side of things. So I thought if you could give us kind of the three big benefits that you see of learning and why it's important in our industry to continue it.
Good question. Okay. So I think the first thing is a change of perspective. So what I often find is that both for myself and my own clients, it's that opening up of this whole area that we're not even aware of. We don't know what we don't know. And so often, all the time. Yeah, exactly. And I'm always so excited. That makes me excited for life, right? Because I'm like, wow, I wonder what I'm going to discover tomorrow that I don't even know exists today. And that kind of stuff really excites me. And I see it in my clients all the time. They come to me and they might be a bit disillusioned. They might be falling out of love with their business. They might be saying, oh, I just can't do this, or I can't increase my rates, or whatever their thing is. And there's this whole area that they could be doing or looking at that they don't even know exists. And so the first big benefit for me is that change of perspective is often the first step before you even absorb the knowledge, is just to go, wow, this is possible. This is an opportunity. Now I know it exists. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do the learning and the implementing and, the actual tangible stuff. But it's that perspective. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And often that perspective is even about ourselves. So again, I see lots of clients more on that. So as you know, I work with the big global corporates, Marriott and Hilton, etc. But often the entrepreneurs, the one-man bands, the one planner, the one florist who doesn't have a team, it's just them. Their perspective shift has to be on themselves, what they can achieve, what they can do, because they feel these invisible barriers like, well, I can't do that, well, I can't charge that, or people won't pay that. And so sometimes that perspective shift is, yes, that knowledge is there, like that thing is there that you don't even know about, but also perspective about yourself. That's one.
I so agree with that. I was talking in an episode a couple of weeks back about the importance of networking and how having people who aren't in the industry as like people that you can just go and pick their brains about something is so important, because they have a different perspective than we do, because you can get so tunnel visioned when you're in the industry and everybody around you is in the industry and they're all talking at the same time, the same things. And then you step outside of it and go to a different business friend who's in a completely different genre, and they could have different eyes, different perspective, and could just open you up to something completely new. So, and learning is exactly the same. Learning from different people, going, one retreat is not made like another retreat, and you're going to learn different things, and going and learning from different people allows you to find the people that you resonate with, and who you love to learn from. And when you find that, learning becomes so much easier.
Yeah, so true. More enjoyable. It becomes more enjoyable, and it's not a task. It's not a chore. It's just an enjoyable process. So yeah, perspective is the first big benefit for me. The second one really is revenue. That the big benefit to learning that I've seen both in my own business and in my clients' businesses, it comes down to cold hard cash. Knowledge is power. We know that. And yet somehow, until we have that perspective change, that shift, we don't believe that someone else can show us how to make bottom line revenue. Then once you realize it, it's almost addictive. Because then you're like, wow, great, I've hit this milestone. Now who's the person who's going to get me to the next milestone? Knowledge of how to do things differently can save you time, can streamline your business, can show you how to increase rate, can show you how to attract more clientele. That's simple knowledge. And I think a lot of people think, for example, that sales is you're either born a salesman. Like, I'll be honest, my husband was born a salesman. This is the guy that on our first date I walked out on because I thought he was horrendous, and I am now married with a child. Like, that's the genius level of sales my husband is in, right? But I digress.
Brilliant.
Some people are born salespeople, like my husband, and majority of wedding industry pros are not naturally born salespeople. You know, we love to plan, we love logistics, we love the creativity of the florals or the styling or capturing the best light on a photograph. That natural personality does not go hand in hand with a natural salesperson. It's very rare to find a wedding pro who's a natural salesperson. And so then it's a simple bridge of that gap is, well, let me learn the knowledge of how to sell so that I can do the thing I love. And so the second big benefit is cold hard cash. If you are a photographer or a florist or whatever it is you do in the industry, ultimately, if you don't know how to sell, you can't do the thing you do. And now the problem is we've all got this major negativity when it comes to the word sales, right? Like, I say it 400 times a day, so it doesn't upset me. But I know listeners right now, even me saying the word selling and sales, they're like, oh, it just makes me feel creepy. Like, they don't like it. And yet all I'm simply saying is a transactional situation where you offer a product to a person who needs your product and who you love delivering the product to. That is sales. The problem is we've got this kind of mindset of like the 80s car salesman who's sleazy and pushy and manipulative, and we don't like that. No. And I don't like that. That's not the kind of sales that we teach. We teach a very specific method of attraction marketing so that we really teach people how to attract couples to them rather than forcefully sell to them. And this attraction marketing not only aligns with our wedding pros because they really enjoy that style, but it works very well for wedding couples who don't want to have that kind of pushy sales conversation. So the second benefit is that learning sales, learning marketing delivers you more sales, delivers you more couples, delivers you the possibility to do the thing you love. And if we don't learn it, if we don't bridge that gap, well, we don't get that benefit. So we can totally say, well, I don't like sales, I don't like selling. Okay, we'll find a way of selling that aligns with you. Find a way of attracting couples that aligns with who you are and that you enjoy. Because, I literally made a post about this morning. It's not our couple's job to buy from us. It's our job to sell. Right? And we think, well, I'll build it and they will come. I'll have this offer and they will come. Guys, write this down if you're listening. That was a line from a movie. It is not a business strategy. Right? That is a line from a movie. It doesn't make cash. Second benefit is cold hard cash. Learning gives you revenue.
And I think that also applies with your trade side of things as well. So I was a wedding photographer for 10 years and I started in the industry because I absolutely loved photographing. Huge passion of mine. And then I love everything about weddings, marriage, the whole shebang. So it was a natural connection there. But I didn't have a diploma in photography when I started. No. I just had a natural eye. Yeah. But I needed that certificate. For me personally, I needed that certificate. And I know there'll be people out there that are the same. It's like, it's not the certificate itself. It's the extension of knowledge, like you were saying. And it is that getting better at your craft and get better at your craft, charge more money. If you are 10 years in and you have got a lot of experience and a lot of education behind you and you have honed your craft, then you can charge more than somebody who's just starting out and hasn't got any experience at all. And that's just the way it is. Like you say, it's just is what it is. At the end of the day, if you want to stay in business, if you want to be able to do more weddings, then you've got to charge people money and you need to have the skills and the ability and the knowledge to be able to do that. So I love that revenue is the second one there.
So we've got perspective, we've got revenue, and then realistically, the third big benefit of learning is it genuinely can change your life. So this can be on a small daily situation of change of life, and it can be dramatic. So what I mean by that is, if I think of, I'm literally constantly listening to things that enhance my knowledge. So that can be something as simple as a podcast by somebody that I'm interested in hearing from, or it could be the investment I make to my own mentor. Like the listening doesn't have to be sitting down for an hour with a notebook. It can be whilst I'm having lunch or cooking dinner for my 5-year-old, and it's just a podcast that's dripping into my mind. And what I tend to find, so a lot of what we teach in terms of sales marketing is rooted in psychology, why people do what they do, why they choose what they choose, how messaging impacts how they think. It's really about psychology. And so when we are listening to these kind of learnings at a small level, like a little podcast every morning, right up to, a really big financial investment with a mentor that we're listening to, we begin to change our habits. We begin to change how we think. We begin to change what we're doing. And that can literally be at a small, teeny, tiny level, but that still has impact, or it could be at an enormous level. So a benefit to learning is genuinely your life can change at the level you want it to. And I think that having that continual positive knowledge input really affects us at a deeper level than we know, because those small changes begin to happen and it's almost like you're not noticing. And then suddenly you look back and you're like, wow, look where I was a year ago. I wouldn't have done what I'm doing today had I not been listening to that thing or that person or following that thought process. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. And I have to say that that's another advantage of the networking and having friends in business, because you might not even notice the change. I have a coach and we've been working together for a year and a half now, and she's pointed out to me in these last things, I'm really struggling at the moment. It's just the things aren't, it was kind of going in a general direction that I wanted it to go in, and now it's kind of getting stuck. And she turned around and said, but look how far you've come.
Yes.
You're a completely different person to who you were this time last year. And just having her point that out to me is like, it opened my eyes, and I was just like, I've got to keep my eye on the bigger picture and not get in the weeds. And I think we can do that in our businesses a lot, get really deep into the weeds and miss out on the bigger picture.
Yeah. And also, like, things don't happen overnight. You have to trust the process. So again, if we think about, implementing a strategy with one of our clients or even people in our membership, it's rare you're going to take one action today and see an incredible impact tomorrow. Now, don't get me wrong, that does happen sometimes. People come in, they take action, boom, they start seeing impact. But more normally is that we have to have a little bit of consistency. We have to be out there for a few weeks or a few months with the strategy before we then, I see it happening. And it's almost like going to the gym, doing one workout and then being like, well, I don't have any abs yet. Where are my abs? Do you know what I mean? And you're just doing it every single day. You're just going to the gym every day going, oh, I don't have abs yet. But yeah, if you did that for 3, 4, 6 months, you would wake up and go, there's my abs.
Yeah.
Right. We in business, it's like we start the strategy and then we don't trust that it will come to fruition. We don't trust that whole process that is going on almost under the surface.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. And I love what you said about learning coming from so many different places. Like, we think, oh no, I've got to go and sit in a classroom and take notes and stuff. But learning comes from knowledge, comes from everywhere. We're absorbing knowledge all the time. And I think we have to be really careful about what we let into our space. So all that social media scrolling and all of that Twitter trolling, oh my goodness, I don't go on Twitter. I can't stand the negativity on it. But we're letting that into our brains, and that's programming us right there. So we have to be really selective about what we're letting in.
It really is. And people who know me know that I'm not woo-woo. I'm not about magical unicorn fairy dust. I'm very much logical. So although weddings, I come from a big corporate background of weddings. So working for big global companies that are corporates and yet selling weddings inside that has given me a really unique advantage of understanding the big corporate perspective and yet the little wedding idea and bringing that together. And so, my brain is always strategy, action, KPIs, targets, profit margins. And so people are often surprised when I talk about, managing your mindset, because they think that's on the magical unicorn fairy dust side, but it isn't. Because ultimately, what you think, what you believe is what's going to happen. Because if you believe that you're not good enough, or you believe you can't charge it, people won't pay it. Right? If you believe you can, if you believe you can put your rates up there, you put it out there with confidence in the right way, yes, alongside the strategy. But here's the magical part. The strategy without the mindset doesn't work.
Yeah.
I can give the same 5 people the same strategy. The ones who have got the confidence and the mindset piece ticked will smash it and drive revenue. The 2 who don't will not, with exactly the same strategy. Yeah. And so I agree with you. And so recently, obviously with the Queen's death and the funeral and everything else, there's obviously a lot of stuff on TV. And I am a royalist. I absolutely love the Queen. I've shed a few tears. Like I'm in it. I'm in the moment. However, in the last day or 2, I have chosen to start turning the TV off because I need to move forward now. So I've had my moments. I had a few tears. I discussed it with my 5-year-old. We've gone through the process, but it's enough now. And I'm ready to kind of move on. And I love the news. Like I love knowing what's going on in the world. But me personally, I've chosen to turn that off because I need my brain to get in a different gear now. Does that make sense? I don't know if you felt the same.
Yeah, I have. And I've watched bits. I sort of watched like the first night. I just had the news on and I just watched it all night long. And even then it was repeating itself and I was like absorbing all of that. And then the next day I was watching quite a lot. And just over the days, I've just caught clips here and there of different things and tried not to sort of focus too much on it because it drains you and it drains your energy. And then you can't be functional. And we need to be functional. I've said on my networking meeting this morning that I think that Her Majesty would be very pleased that we were getting together and we hadn't stopped, because at the end of the day she worked every day of her life and her family are working through this. They're doing all of their duties and everything else whilst trying to mourn their mother and grandmother. And I think that is such a vision to see, and it kind of empowers me to think, I'm doing the right thing by continuing to get on with what I need to be getting on with. It doesn't mean that there's any disrespect there or that I'm not feeling what I'm feeling. So yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so I absolutely love those 3 things, and I don't think I couldn't have put it better myself, to be honest with you. So we're looking at a change of perspective, increase in revenue, and it could change your life, and it literally could change your life, and I absolutely love that. But we are in a situation right now where nobody knows what's going on in the world. I don't think. I said to my daughter the other day, well, I think that we've kind of had our 3 things, haven't we? Huge global issues there: COVID, the recession, stroke, energy prices, and now the Queen's death. And I'm just like, okay, world, it's time to even out now. We've had our 3 things, but it's quite an uncertain time for people. And although there is a lot of free knowledge out there, I know from buying knowledge myself that you could go and struggle and go on Google and search for what you need and grab pieces from here, there, and everywhere. Sometimes it is just worth paying for the knowledge to get straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and like get that in-depth, detailed knowledge all in one go about the thing that you're wanting to do. But some people will be looking at the current climate and going to slash my training budget. We're not going to do any training next year. It's just not viable. What would you say to people who are thinking about pulling back purse strings on their training?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because of course we understand that thought, that panic, that worry. You can't say that doesn't exist. It does. We understand that people feel those things. I guess my perspective on it is different, and that's again where maybe how I surround myself, with the people, with the knowledge coming into my brain, my perspective simply sits differently. And, there's different ways to look at this. So the first part is, especially when we're thinking about weddings, is, one of my kind of key parts of my strategy is teaching people how to move through the price points. So whether they're in our next level membership or whether it's one-to-one, it's usually one of the key focuses is, okay, how do we keep moving them up step by step so their pricing is increasing? And this is important right now because the couples with the higher budgets will be less affected. So I see wedding pros, for example, saying, well, I need to slash rates because everybody's in an energy crisis and cost of living and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to slash rate because I'm going to panic. And actually, you are now just targeting the budget couples who are most affected by the energy crisis or cost of living. Whereas actually, if you were to maintain the focus on increasing rate, you would find that you are moving into a category who are less affected. And the less affected they are, the more your business continues to move forward. So it's actually the complete opposite of our panic instinct. And so that's one part of it. The second part is that sales and marketing especially are the things that drive the cash flow. Yeah. So again, I often get with a client, and this is so typical of gorgeous creative wedding pros, and they're completely focused on delivery, of delivery of service. Now, again, people in my world, my clients, they know I always encourage people to deliver at a world-class level. Whatever they do, we deliver at a high level. So I'm not suggesting we don't do that, but the focus is always on the delivery, on the actual final product, on the day of the wedding, and very little focus is on the sales and marketing. And ultimately, you could be the person who delivers the absolute best on the wedding day. If you don't have a strong sales and marketing plan, you will never get to that wedding day. So by cutting out the knowledge of the thing that drives the business is like cutting the tires off your car and still expecting it to drive. Like, it's just not going to go. You're going to have to focus on the sales and marketing. And when we come into a situation like a recession or a cost of living, this is the moment to focus more on sales and marketing. Okay, what's my new messaging? Who am I targeting? How am I going to increase my rate? How am I going to reach those couples who can afford me? And I get that our kind of DNA, our caveman brain panics and says, okay, I'll just slash rate. I'll take anything I can get. But I really encourage everyone just to take a big breath and just calm and look at reality of who's going to keep spending and how you align yourself with the couple that keeps spending. If we do not upskill ourselves, we will not be able to attract and convert those couples. And so it really, it makes me feel sad for those businesses because I know that all they are doing is cutting the potential of driving the revenue that they sometimes really desperately need. They need that revenue coming in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that is something that I see a lot of people do. Stop advertising, stop doing all of these things. And it's like, it is completely the wrong thing to do because so many people are thinking that way. So actually, you're going to get more bang for your buck with your advertising because less people are doing it.
Even down to that, you see. So if we start, let's dive deeper. So normally, I was literally with a gorgeous 5-star venue yesterday. I'd been with them for the day, training their team. Then they had their catch-up Zoom with me yesterday. And we started to deep dive onto some of their advertising. And straight away, I picked up on 3 things that were putting people off in their advertising. So even though they're putting money, they're placing their ads in the right places, there were things about the ads that I knew instantly would not convert. And as soon as I shared it with them, they were like, oh my God, how did we not see this? We're going to change this instantly. And I know that in a week or 2, they will come back to me and say, right, we're seeing better results from that ad now. Yeah. And this is the thing, people are just ticking boxes. Well, I'm listed on this site, I'm advertising, I'm posting on social. Okay, great. What are you saying on social? What do your ads look like? What do your images look like? It's not that you just pull back. It's that you see what works. You change things to optimize each step so it actually drives the revenue for you.
Yeah, I love that. So you touched on your courses and things during that. I would love for you to expand for my audience on what you have on offer that they might like to take advantage of. And I know that you've got a free download for us as well about ghosting.
Definitely. So there are various ways we work with people. For people who are really committed, they're ready to take some serious action, we do VIP days. So that's usually where I'm going to their business location in person, and I spend a full day with them, and we literally unpack their business, rebuild their sales and marketing plan at a very deep level. So by the time we get to the end of the day, they have an exact, clear blueprint that they are going to then follow. So the VIP days are, £4,000. We spend the full day with the team, we train them, we create the plan. Our signature program is the next level. That's online and it's global. So we have people in Australia, America, UK, everything from planners to venues to florists, photographers. It's a gorgeous space to both connect with others, but it is also learning. So there's a library, a bit like Netflix, there's a library of videos of strategy that people can go into and find what they need. And it's a hybrid. So not only do we have the recorded strategy, but I'm live on Zoom with our members. So they can actually get my eyes on their business. They can share what they've done. I can give them direct feedback. So there's a really nice blend there. And here's the thing. The next level is our signature program. It's £97 a month currently. It's about to increase the price, by the way. But for the moment, as we record this, it's still 97. And it's so interesting how people react so differently. So if people have done a day with me, they've spent £4,000, they've seen an incredible return on investment. They're like, wow, £97 a month? That's so cheap. Like, where do I sign? They're like running to the door for it, And then people who have never invested anything in their business, who have only ever downloaded all the free stuff, have only ever watched the free stuff on YouTube, they're like, wow, £97 a month? And yet I always think, wow, how many weddings would it take for you to just pay for that 20 times over? £25 a week, really? And genuinely, I say this with love, if you cannot invest £25 a week into your business, then are you really committed and serious in your business? Yes. Because it's change. It's a few coffees and a lunch or a pizza. If we're not prepared to forego a pizza to invest in our business, then I really question our commitment and our professionalism to that business. So the next level is our signature program. It's got everything in it that people need. And it's a great one. It's definitely a great starting point. People often start with us there. And yes, I do lots of one-off workshops. So, in a couple of weeks, I'm doing a social sales workshop, how you can sell on social media and things like that. People can buy one-off for like £27. So we really cover as much as we can from, the free downloads to the kind of £27 mark to the £100 a month mark to the kind of £4,000 a day. And all of these different levels mean that we are accessible no matter where people are at. And it allows them to come in and almost have a taster of working with us. Like, okay, £27, I'll risk it. Let's see how we do, right? Then they're blown away. They're like, wow, look at what I got for £27. Imagine if I committed £100 a month, I'd be, we'd be flying. And so we really try to make sure we can be as inclusive as possible for everybody to be able to make those steps forward, because it's in the success stories that I get my, a satisfaction when people are sending me text messages and, I'll share one with you. There's a 5-star hotel I work with, and they were really struggling to sell weddings, like beautiful property, 5-star, gorgeous. But all of their messaging, everything was completely wrong. Their images were wrong. Everything was just not working. And we made some serious changes. I spent a lot of time with them. I spent 3 months working with them. And they went from not being able to sell a wedding at £500, like they were really struggling just to room hire, like just for a ceremony. They were really scraping the bottom of the barrel. And then she sent me a text message saying, oh my God, we just confirmed a wedding for 4 days worth $250,000, 250 grand.
Wow.
So to go from, barely selling at £500 to saying, oh my God, we confirmed a 4-day wedding at $250,000. Like, it's that moment where I'm like, I love my people. I love my clients. And I always love the surprise on their face where they're like, oh my goodness, it's actually working. And it's a bit like when I, obviously I used to do the weddings. Now I just help the businesses. And it was always on the wedding day. And many of you will resonate listening to this, where the bride turns to you and she's like, wow, you did it. Like, we couldn't have done it without you. And that feeling has transferred now to the businesses saying to me, wow, we did what you said and it's working.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like one of the things that we have to remember is it's that mindset thing with paying for things, because if you're expecting a couple to spend £1,000, £2,000, £3,000 with you, then how can you then turn around and have the mindset of £97 a month?
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute and just like sit with it, because that's probably why you're struggling in your business. Like if you're struggling and you're sort of having that, nobody's going to pay this, and I need to lower my prices, if you're thinking that, then that's what's impacting you, and you maybe need to do some mindset work. It is so important, so important.
Yeah. And I practice what I preach. I heard you say that you yourself have got a coach. Guess what? So have I. Like there's no way I could be in a business where I'm helping the people kind of to move up through the levels and not have that same thing ahead of me. Now, my mentor has nothing to do with weddings, absolutely zero, but she does run a global multi-million pound company. So has she got things I can learn? Hell yeah, of course. Now, do I believe that I have currently the best strategy out there for driving wedding sales? Actually, I do that. That is my ninja skill. However, I am aware of all this stuff over here I don't know from a woman who's many steps ahead of me in her particular company. And so, and the investment I make now monthly with that mentor is eye-watering. Like it's a big stretch for me. It's a big stretch. But you know what? That holds me accountable. I turn up, I do the work, I make sure that money I'm investing is paying for itself and more. And so there is a part of it that it's even in the financial investment that is the thing that gives you the rocket up the backside to actually do the work. Because most of us know we're supposed to be doing it, we're just not doing it.
So true. So true. I absolutely love that. So we are going to have all of Kelly's links in the show notes, guys. So do head over. The download Stop Getting Ghosted will also be in there. Now, just before we sign out, and while my cat meows in the background, sorry guys, you're used to it. Oh, she'll just get louder so that you can hear her, apparently. So I've got 3 quickfire questions for you, Kelly. So quickfire round. What is the one thing you wish you had been told when you started your business?
Build an email list. I did do it reasonably quickly, but if I'd have done it even earlier, it would have been better. It's something I teach people to do. And wedding pros always say, I don't need it, blah, blah, blah. But you do. Owning your own data is so important. Owning your own audience, because social media can disappear at any time, and we've seen it happen to people. So build an email list, and I wish I'd have done it a little bit sooner than I did.
Brilliant. I love that one. I completely agree with you as well. What is the biggest myth you hear about the wedding industry?
That it's all flowers and bows and drinking champagne. So people outside of the industry often would say things like, wow, do you actually get to go to these weddings? Which I always found so mind-boggling, because I was like, no, I'm going to work on a wedding for 18 months with a budget of £1 million. And then on the day, I'm going to sit at home in my PJs. Like, as if I'm not going to be there running it and coordinating everything to perfection. So that kind of myth about the industry being very fluffy and very much just, tying bows on chairs and drinking champagne really used to annoy me quite a lot. Now I just sort of laugh at it, because I'm like, really? But yeah, I feel like us in the industry and the pros who listening to this will resonate and have been asked silly questions like that as well.
Yeah, I bet. And finally, what is the one book you would recommend to my listeners?
Oh my gosh, I have like 5 books. Okay. Oh my goodness. If it's just one, it's probably going to be Tiny Habits.
I've not heard of that one.
So it's about making those, a little bit like what we were talking about earlier. It's about making these tiny, small changes, not because actually as human beings, it's really hard for us to make big change and make it. We're good for a week, right? We go to the gym for a week and then we're like, can't be
revert back.
But making really small changes, what you see is that the trajectory over 365 days would create a big impact, and it's low effort on our part. And we can attach these small, tiny changes to things we're already doing, and then we build upon them. And so over time, they compound and create quite big results.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for coming in today and speaking with us, Kelly. I have absolutely loved the conversation. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. Such a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Definitely head over to the show notes, connect with Kelly on social media if you haven't already, which I'm sure a lot of you have. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.